Thank you. Good afternoon. We'll be starting this Lunch and Learn webinar in a couple of minutes. I unmuted someone who just called in from a phone. Can you identify yourself?
Frank, that might be me, Bob Macron.
Okay. Hi, Bob. How are you?
Good. Good morning.
Anyone else just calling in from a phone to identify themselves?
I did. My name is Jeanette Ackerman. I called in from a phone.
Okay. Thank you, Jeanette.
My name is Sedonia Young.
Welcome.
Hello.
Yes. Anyone else calling in from a phone? Can you identify yourself?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello. Shaija Armstrong.
Hi, Shaija.
Hi. How are you?
Very good. And anyone else calling in just from a phone, can you identify yourself?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sedonia Young.
Okay, good afternoon, Sedonia. Just wanted to make sure we knew who was on the call. Thank you so much.
Okay, you're welcome.
Looks like we're waiting for one more panelist who's just signing in now, and then we can begin once the panelist calls in with her audio.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, it's John Giachetti. How are you?
Thank you very much, panelists. Thank you, Anthony, Jessica, and John for joining us today. If you would, can you please just mute your phones on your end, and then we will give we'll give you the cue to begin speaking about your programs. Thank you very much. So now we're coming on 12:02, so in the interest of time, I think we're going to begin this Lunch and Learn webinar. Before I make our official introductions, I would first like to introduce our Deputy Commissioner and Director, Robert Macarone, who has joined us today for this Lunch and Learn webinar. And Deputy Commissioner and Director, if you would like to say some words, please feel free.
All right. Thank you, Frank. And first and foremost, on behalf of Commissioner Green, Mike Green, and myself, I want to welcome you all to the third installment of the Learn and Lunch, or Lunch and Learn series, rather, on October 7th. And I hope that this finds you, your families, and your staff doing well. I want to encourage each of you to continue to take the precautions to ensure that you stay well throughout this pandemic. I want to note that it's just admirable in terms of the community-based services provided through a host of community service providers, whether it's ATI programs, alternatives to incarceration, probation departments, county reentry task forces, and all of the community partners that support some of those funded programs. But in and of itself, your programs throughout our communities in New York State are providing services and have continued to manage through this pandemic in helping individuals seek and find the services that they really need. So first and foremost, thank you. Thank you to agency administrators and agency staff. I see we have an impressive lineup of speakers. I do want to recognize John Giachetti, our Niagara County Probation Director, for joining on, and John, thank you very much. Today's session is entitled Managing Community-Based Services, and you know, when I first saw the PowerPoint and looked at it, we talked about service referrals. And in probation, increasingly, we are moving from a referral perspective to a management perspective. And I say to probation officers all the time, as well as community-based corrections professionals, that it requires more than a referral to a service. It really requires helping individuals schedule those appointments and ensure, in fact, that they follow up and attend those appointments. And we've done that in the County Reentry Task Force model. We've done it through service coordination with a greater emphasis on service planning and service coordination. And Michelle Clark and her team, as well as Nicole Aldi and her ATI team, have done the same. And certainly we look at case reviews within probation departments in the same view. We can be most effective if, in fact, we take an affirmative stance with clients and ensure that those meetings are scheduled and, in fact, they're followed up on, ensuring that they get the services they need. So without further ado, I think this is going to be a great training. I've seen some of the information that the staff have put together, and I want to hear from the guests. And so I'll go silent now, but thank you again for your continued work. Very much appreciated. Thank you, Frank.
Thank you, Bob, for those kind words, and we're always appreciative when you're able to be on these Lunch and Learn webinar series with us. And we thank you as well for your commitment to this cause. My name is Frank Cangiano. I'm a community corrections representative, too, with the New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services, Vocational, Educational, Employment, and Reentry Unit. I will be co-presenting this Lunch and Learn webinar with Alden Sattermeyer, who's also a community correction representative, too, with the New York State DCJS's Alternatives to Incarceration Unit. And Alden and I would also like to acknowledge Michelle Clark, who is a very unit manager, as well as Nicole Aldi, the ATI unit manager, who are also in attendance for this webinar, as well as all the other staff members who have taken the time out of their busy schedules to be with us today. If you have any questions during the course of this Lunch and Learn webinar, please feel free to enter them into the Q&A box, which should be located on the lower right corner of your screen on the right-hand side. And if you have any technical problems with communication, please ask those questions and let us know in the chat box. There are 3 learning objectives for this Lunch and Learn today. We will first define collaboration. We will next identify the different program types currently funded by DCJS, as well as the partners for the different program types for these funded programs, as well as allowing you as attendees to understand key steps to engage and maintain collaboration with community-based partners. Collaboration is defined as a mutually beneficial and well-defined relationship entered into by 2 or more organizations to achieve common goals. The relationship includes a commitment to a definition of their mutual relationships and goals, a jointly developed structure and shared responsibility, a mutual and accountability for success, as well as the sharing of resources and reports. What I want to stress during the course of this Lunch and Learn, and what everyone should keep in the back of their minds, is that collaboration is a shared responsibility, and is also necessary for you to have these responsibilities with your partners. In the case of the criminal justice field, the ultimate goal of collaboration is a reduction of recidivism by addressing the criminogenic needs of the participants. So if everyone would just mute their phones on their end, please. During Lunch and Learn, I was receiving some feedback. Thank you. Currently, the DCJS Community Corrections Portfolio is as follows for 2020. There are 5 main types of programs or subtypes, if you will. There are the 13A classification programs. These include 120 programs that have 71 contracts with DCJS. There are also the recidivism and incarceration reduction programs. There are currently 29 programs that have a DCJS contract, 20 county reentry task force programs, 13 employment-focused services programs, and 15 jail-based cognitive behavioral intervention programs. So just looking at this portfolio, in total, DCJS funds almost 200 community corrections programs across New York State. And as you all know, these programs, as well as programs in general, work with a wide variety of established partners. In the case of the 5 types of programs that I listed, for the 13A programs, their main partners would include either the courts or the local probation departments. For the recidivism and incarceration reduction programs, the RIR programs, their main partner agencies would also include the courts or probation. For the 20 county reentry task forces, their main partner is New York State Docs Parole. For the EFS programs or employment-focused services programs, their main partners include the courts, probation, as well as New York State Docs Parole, depending on the target population they serve. And for the jail-based programs, obviously their main partner would be the jail staff. And reminding all of you now is that collaboration is key to address the needs of all of these programs. When you collaborate with these partnering agencies, whether it is the courts, whether it is probation, whether it is New York State Docs Parole, or even when you're collaborating with jail staff, it's really important to remember that this is an ongoing process. Alden will now speak more to that process, starting with the next slide. Alden, take it away.
Thank you, Frank. Good afternoon, folks. With respect to engagement, We've listed 5 bullets on there, but the 2 key takeaways to me are, number 1, do not assume automatic collaboration. Like all relationships, they need work. And the focus is on the buy-in and the benefits to both parties. Slide, please, Frank.
It's there.
Thank you. Frequent contact with the partnering agency is very important to maintaining the viability of the program. Like all good relationships, good communication is the key. Slide. By using an integrated model, we align principles and values, build policy and service delivery collaboratively, create interdependency with the overall result reducing recidivism. When these 3 spheres intersect, we see well-run, effective programs, such as we will hear about later on in today's presentation.
So here are some questions to ask yourselves. Keep these in the back of your minds, both if you are starting a new program, as well as if you have a program that has been in existence for months, years, or even decades. What kind of partnerships currently exist in your system? Where do new partnerships need to be forged? How does participation in the change process assist partners in accomplishing their mission and vision? What are the communication pathways within our collaboration? How do we consciously develop mutual respect within our collaboration? And the last question, and this last question seems to be one of the more important questions, do participants at all levels understand and buy into the vision of both your program as well as your partnering agency? So please, as you're going out in the field, as you're collaborating with programs and partnering agencies, please keep these 6 questions in mind as you are doing so. We will now turn this presentation over to 3 professionals who have volunteered their time with us to discuss their own collaborative efforts in managing community-based services. The first person that will speak will be Jessica Centeno. Jessica is currently the Deputy Director of the Center for Employment Opportunities, or CEO. Currently, she has oversight over DCJS's 3 upstate CEO programs, as well as a New York City program that exists to serve New York City probation clients. So please, Jessica, if you would, please talk a little bit about your collaborative efforts.
Yeah, sure thing. Hi, everyone. Hi, Frank. Frank, can you just confirm that you can hear me well?
I hear you crystal clear. Crystal.
Awesome. Terrific. Good afternoon, everyone. I just want to start off by thanking DCJS for putting together this Lunch and Learn. It's such a critical topic for, service programs and referral in terms of collaborating and cultivating a very strong partnership. So I'm going to share a couple of methods that we use at CEO that we believe to be effective. Nothing's ever perfect, and I think what's most important is that this is a continued work in progress, and it's something that you have to be very consistent when engaging with your referral sources. I'm going to discuss today 3 quick methods, but I think just very quickly, pre-COVID, we had the luxury of the ability to conduct outreach in person at the parole bureaus, and that's where we were able to conduct some recruitment as well. We're very hopeful that it will resume post-COVID, and it really gives us an opportunity to connect directly with the parole officers who are on the ground, meeting with the individuals on their caseload. We give them at that time real-time updates using laptops. Thankfully, our database it's web-based, so as long as we have a Wi-Fi connection, and we've even equipped our staff with the MiFi and a way for them to access the internet at the parole bureaus in the event that there's not a strong connection. But they do get to meet in person, not just with the parole officers, but also with prospective program participants when they conduct outreach and recruitment in the bureaus. So some of the top 3 methods briefly that we think are critical are, again, establishing consistent points of contact with your referral source. And I think it's important to have those consistent points of contact at all levels. So from the individual who's conducting the outreach in the Bureau, which typically might be a frontline staff member, all the way up to director of a program having direct contact and consistent contact with maybe the Bureau chief, the senior parole officer, reentry managers, reentry assistants, and of course the parole officers as well. So what we find to be most beneficial is the ongoing engagement. It's critical to establishing that solid partnership with referral sources. And it's not about requesting referrals to your program, but it's really about keeping the referral partners looped in on program initiatives. And also participants' progress, including positive outcomes, job placements, job milestones, and also collaborating with your referral sources to have to troubleshoot any maybe engagement or lack of engagement that might be happening with an individual. There's a real exchange of information from, do you have an updated phone number for someone? We typically receive that question from a parole officer, or in turn we'll ask them for updates on contact information. But the three methods that we use to really drill home on engagement is that we are sending to parole officers, which has been very important to us now that we're conducting services remotely in terms of, the management of the relationship with the parole officers. Since we're unable to conduct that in-person recruitment, we send weekly status updates, and we email the entire census of our program. So essentially everyone who's been referred to us and who has enrolled in our program, we send out an email blast to parole officers and provide them with the current status update of the individual, along with the definitions of what those statuses mean. Throughout the week, we're also conducting or providing phone updates to parole officers when necessary, and more specifically when the parole officers are available. Typically we find that we can connect with someone on the day that they have set aside to take in report. That's when we know we can typically get them on reach them on their office line or even on their mobile. We also have site visits that are conducted in our offices and the transitional work crews that we run by the reentry managers. That happens periodically. I'd say, on average, we shoot to have that happen once a month. And then again, pre-COVID, and we're optimistic for, the day when we can host our open houses again, which are a convening of all the referral partners in our office. Gives them a really great opportunity to see the space where they're sending referrals. We give them updates on our program, any new initiatives. And more importantly, we're also acknowledging them for the good work that they do. We provide parole officers who tend to send us the highest number of referrals. It's a way for us to acknowledge them. We'll present to them a certificate of appreciation as part of the agenda for an open house, and thank them for sending us referrals and being a collaborative partner with us. And then we also give some shout outs and acknowledgement to the parole officers who might have sent second or third most referrals. That typically gets them going, and typically we'll hear, I'm going to get that certificate next time, or I should have gotten that. So it's a really cool way to, further solidify that partnership with parole. Some of the benefits are that we do have a direct point of contact by partnering with the referral sources. Again, this is a collaboration. We all have a mutual goal. For us as CEO, it's to get individuals placed into permanent employment, but we know that we can't do that alone, right? There are sometimes restrictions that an individual might have, so we do collaborate with the parole officers to submit requests. For example, maybe there's a job that offers hours that might conflict with an individual's curfew, so it's fantastic that we can pick up the phone or send an email and ask if it's okay for employment purposes, if a PO would be willing to allow someone to accept a position and work hours that might conflict with their curfew. Sometimes it's their ability to utilize a driver's license. So we have those points of contact who we can call, collaborate with, get approval, or work towards another type of employment opportunity. And then lastly, you know, just to talk about some of the work that we do higher level, there are quarterly meetings that CEO holds with docs leadership along with CEO leadership, and that gives us an opportunity to discuss some high level updates. I'm going to pause and end there and just see if you guys have any questions.
No, thank you, Jessica.
Great.
I think it sounds like a lot of your initiatives are acknowledging the work at both the line officer level, as well as providing updates to the higher administration personnel while you're still managing your community-based services. So I really appreciate all the information you presented on some of the work that you're doing. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Frank.
Frank, this is Michelle Clark.
Yes, hi, Michelle, go ahead.
Hi. I'd like to ask a question really quick and also just make a comment with respect to what Jessica Centeno just mentioned. And thank you, Jessica, for coming on today and presenting. I think it's a critical element that you just talked about with respect to weekly communication with the individuals or the program agency that provides you with the referrals to your EFS programs. So thank you for mentioning that. I just wanted to offer this little tidbit to the group here who's listening, and that is something that we have found to be very helpful, and that when programs do make weekly contact with whether it be the area office or the probation department, and the particular individuals who are indeed making the referrals to the program, having that contact and having yourself be somewhat in front of them, so to speak, on a regular basis will keep your program in the forefront of their mind. So I just wanted to mention that. It was more of a statement, obviously, than a question, but I just wanted to thank you and point out that that's a really good point.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you very much, Michelle. I'd like now to turn this to Anthony Matthews, who is the Bridge Program Director for the Watertown Urban Mission, which is a recidivism and incarceration reduction program funded by DCJS. So Anthony, can you speak a little bit as to your level of collaborative efforts for your program?
Yes, sir. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. I am Anthony Matthews with the Bridge Program at the Watertown Urban Mission. I want to speak to you guys a little bit about the about maintaining collaboration with our partners here in the area that I work in. I'm not as an eloquent speaker as Jessica, so you have to bear with me. But we are doing some good work over here. Maintaining a collaborative relationship with our partners is extremely important to the success of our program. I'm going to talk to you about how we collaborate with some of the key partners that are essential to the success of our program. We have a number of attorneys that we work with, and we do bi-weekly check-ins with them to exchange information on mutual clients and their legal status. This process with the clients in court has being officially sentenced to the program has been really hectic due to COVID-19. We have some clients who've been waiting for up to 6 to 8 months to be sentenced, but we do a really good job making sure that we stay in contact with them. We meet with them like they're on the program. And so that's working out for us, and the attorneys are doing an awesome job of working with us. One of the other key partners that we stay in contact with, to maintain collaboration with, is our treatment facilities. We have Samaritan Addiction Services. Prior to the pandemic, we used to meet with them bi-weekly to get updates on mutual clients. Now we communicate through email and over the phone and as needed. They do a really good job staying in contact with us. And Cradle Community Center, another treatment facility, they fax weekly reports to us on all mutual clients. They are currently offering services mostly by Zoom and over the phone, but the counselors, although most of them are working from home, they all have work cell phones, so we have their work cell phone numbers, and so we're able to be in contact with them on a regular basis. We serve on the misdemeanor and felony drug court team, and we meet by Skype weekly now because of the COVID-19, but we receive referrals through this process periodically as well. We work with the counselor supervisor at the Jefferson County Jail. She has been a huge asset to the program. We speak with her now that we can't go into the jail to sit down and talk with her. We still speak with her over phone regularly, and they have made several referrals to the program over the years. They are a huge partner. PTR, pretrial release, is another source of referral and a friend of the program. We speak regularly and have collaborated on lots of clients. Because of the nature of our relationship, it makes a seamless transition from the PTR to Bridge, because while they're going to court, we're working with them at the same time as PTR. So by the time they're sentenced to our program, we're very familiar with them. And like I said, the transition is extremely seamless. We work with the district attorney's office. Prior to the pandemic, we had monthly in-person meetings to discuss current and potential high-risk clients. Currently, we speak on the phone and through email. And the district attorney office is also a huge supporter of the Stop DWI Victim Impact Panel, which is facilitated by the Bridge program for Jefferson County. They have a representative speak at every scheduled event, so they're a really awesome partner. Anchor Recovery Center. Anchor is a partner that not only provide referrals periodically, they are a recovery service to include recovery coaching, AA and NA meetings, as well as smart recovery groups. And a great number of our clients go there. We also serve on their advisory board, along with Credo and Samaritan Addiction Services. They serve on the annual run for recovery committee for our program. And I speak with the director of Anchor on a regular basis. And these are just some of the processes that we execute to maintain collaboration with our partners.
Wow, thank you very much, Anthony. So just from what you were saying in a very eloquent description of all the different types of partners that you have, I just have a follow-up question for you.
Yes.
Is it a challenge for you to keep this contact with these partners and to make sure that they know what type of services you're providing, or do you feel that you have a pretty good system in place for that?
We have a good system in place, and all of the people that we work with, they understand. We've had points where we've sat down and we talked about our program in length with them, and they understand completely what the Bridge program is and how it operates. And they are really, really good at getting in contact with us when they have somebody that they know is a good fit for our program. And also with the treatment providers, they understand exactly what the clients are required, what is required of the clients to our program. So they make sure they get in contact with us. If there's any issues, we know about it like early enough so that we can fix the problem before it becomes a big problem. So we have really good collaboration with our partners.
That's great. Thank you very much. And now I'd like to turn to our last professional, John Giachetti, who is the Probation Director with the Niagara County Probation Department. John has oversight and involvement with several of our DCJS funded programs. So John, please take it away as far as kind of collaborative efforts you are making within your jurisdiction.
Sure. Thank you, Frank, and thank you, Mr. Macarone, for the acknowledgement when we signed on. And thanks, Jessica and Anthony, too. You covered a lot of the things, which makes me feel good, because a lot of the subject matters I identified, you guys covered a lot of them. So it makes me feel like I'm not off in left field somewhere. It's always a nice feeling. As Frank mentioned, we're being a probation department, we're in a position where we're a referral source out to behavioral health providers, employment services, and things like that. But we also have our hand, so to speak, in well, maybe not our hand, so to speak, in with the COVID-19 age, but figuratively or virtually, I guess, we're involved in a number of areas in the portfolio that all been covered earlier. We have an employment-focused services program. We're involved in reduction in recidivism programs through our task program. We have an alternative to jail detention program through there. We have a task expansion program. We're also involved, some of our funding comes from Classification 13 ATI funds, and we're also the lead applicant, and the probation director, which is me, is a co-chair on our community reentry task force. So we're involved in a number of things for which we also depend on bringing referrals in. So some of the key concepts that I looked at when looking over the programs was we're laying the foundation for your program, which Jessica had touched on, I think, quite eloquently. You know, when we started, we're putting together it started out as a 200% of poverty funds early on for our employment services program, our employment-focused services program. And then we changed funding sources eventually. That's neither here nor there. But when we're starting that program, we reached out to the courts, to the public defender's office, to the district attorney's office. We explained what was happening to some of the bigger police departments that we work with. We promoted the program at community events. And most importantly, we promoted the program with our probation officers and supervisors. And you know, you would think that it's a no-brainer. One of your main referral sources for the program is the probation officers in your department, but it turned out that that was, you know, we couldn't really take those referrals for granted. And our employment-focused services coordinator, really, who is a probation officer, really had to make a concerted effort to reach out, explain to the officers what was going on, what's in it for them to make referrals to this program. It was also important administratively within our department to promote this program and to emphasize how important it was to achieve positive outcomes and reduce recidivism in the long run. I think it's important too, when you're setting up your programs, to assign staff that understand the program and are really behind the program. If you know, you have a staff person that isn't really invested in the outcomes of the program, it's going to show, and it's going to be hard to create enthusiasm from your referral sources. It's important on all levels to clearly explain the program process and goals. And as I mentioned before, it's important, I think, to emphasize what's in it for the referral source. Why should they refer people to your program? Kind of a pet peeve with mine over the years has been when somebody will come to the probation department and say, we have this program. And ultimately, the reasoning for why we should refer to the program would be nothing more than, well, because we have a program. So it's important, I saw that as very important for us to explain why the program is important and what the benefit is to the referral source. The other thing that I noticed, or that I find is very important, and I found that it's worked for us, is keeping the referral process as simple as possible. For example, our EFS program, from within the department, the referral process is as simple as an email from one officer to our coordinator, referring an individual to the program, and then our coordinator will have access to all the information that she needs to properly screen the individual and place them in the appropriate services that they need. Same thing with our pretrial release services, and that would be through the task program. You know, the referral over to our program is basically the securing order from the court. So we're not having court clerks jump through a lot of hoops. We're not having judges having to, you know, in the midst of everything going on while they're on the bench and trying to arraign somebody and everything else, like have to stop and think about, or what are the steps to refer somebody over to pretrial services. So, you know, those things are pretty important, I believe, and I think they've helped us to be able to achieve a certain level of success. The other thing that, and Jessica and Anthony, I think both touched on it, is to actively involve your referral sources on a continuing basis. Again, maintaining that collaboration is a process, not an event. So, and that process continues on throughout the life of the program. For example, our CRTF program, getting that collaboration with the local docs or our parole officers is something that was very, very important, and it's been going on for about 13 or 14 years in Niagara County. And that involves the case managers and the CRTF coordinator. Basically, they're in and out of the parole office several times a week, working with the officers, answering questions, providing feedback on the referrals that they've received or the parolees that they're working with. Same thing with our pretrial release services. The task case managers are providing feedback to the courts for just about every return court date. So and it's nothing, it doesn't have to be anything elaborate. They just fire off a couple of sentences over to the court to let them know how the person's doing, how they're progressing, or if they're not progressing, what the issues are there. In our employment-focused services program, same type of thing. Our coordinator is always providing feedback to the officers. So each step of the way, when they complete, when they graduate from T4C class, you know, notice will go to the officer. Hey, you know, they finished, they completed this step. They graduated from T4C, you know, and hopefully that starts a chain reaction of the officer going to the client or the probationer and say, hey, congratulations, and kind of marking that as something positive that they've accomplished, and on and on. So when they complete ready, set, work, that follows up. When they've got job interviews lined up, that progress is passed along to the supervising probation officer. And by doing that, you involve your referral source in the outcome of the process, and it shows the referral source that your program is involved in the outcome of the process. I think that's very important. The other thing on actively pursuing referrals is, I think, tracking your numbers. And we all do quarterly reports when you got grant-funded programs, but staying on top of those and looking at them month by month in order to be able to identify any kind of issues early is an important piece. You don't want to be in a position, you know, where you're in the, you know, halfway through the third quarter of your contract year or into the fourth quarter of your contract year, and then, you know, your program coordinator is coming to you and saying, oh, by the way, we're not going to be able to make our milestones you know, we're short on referrals and we need, you know, X amount of more referrals to get done in the next few weeks, which may or may not be possible. So it's important to track those numbers. If you start to see a problem early, make sure we get back to our referral sources, work with them, find out what it is that may be slowing down the process, get feedback from them, find out what they feel is working, not working, and try to accommodate your referral sources. And that keeps everybody, I think, working together towards a positive outcome. And that ties into my next point, which is you got to deliver the goods. Your program has to deliver the goods on some level, right? The program has to work. If you know, you're bringing people in and there's, you know, you're not getting the positive outcomes, it doesn't seem to be working, you're not going to be able to have an ongoing collaboration. It's important along those lines. Again, it ties into staying actively involved with your referral sources, is providing feedback on a regular basis to your referral source. So for the EFS program, like I said, we're constantly letting the probation officers, the supervising probation officer, know every step of the way, every accomplishment that's made, what's going on. Same thing, you know, again with our pretrial release services, providing feedback to the courts, and through that, the public defenders and the district attorney's office are getting those, getting that information as well. Administratively, I guess on the frontline level, just staying in touch as often as possible with your other frontline referral sources. Administratively, staying, you know, you need to have, I think you need to have regularly scheduled administrative level meetings, and you need to stick to them, and you need to stay on point as you have these things. So those meetings need to mean something to the individuals that are participating in them. For example, our ATI board, we meet quarterly, but that meeting is well attended. It is well intended, but it is also well attended, and you know, we have town representatives from the town justices, city courts, county courts, the district attorney's office is there, the public defender's office is there, the sheriff's department, several police, sometimes police departments, not all the time, but sometimes local police departments, along with other service providers, and our pretrial release program. And those meetings are productive and really full of a give and take conversation about what are our successes, what are some of the areas that we need to work on to improve, what are some of the things that aren't working anymore that we can maybe need to adjust. So I think that's very important, and that helps tie your referral sources and keep them, you know, in the loop. And I think the last piece, hopefully the last piece for me, is you know, every acknowledgement that you need to go back and reinforce the foundation work that you did at the beginning of setting up your program. Staff changes, there's turnover, you know, judges retire, district attorneys, you know, move on, you know, there's turnover in, you know, in police personnel, people within our department, you know, get promoted and move and change roles. So it's important to always periodically go back and reinforce the foundation that you built. Explain again what the program's about, what your process is, what your intended outcomes are, what's in it for the referral source. And so a good example of, and you know, other things can interrupt your process. So COVID-19 is a good example of that. You know, back in March, as we're all aware, things just kind of stopped. So it was important, and our coordinators for all of our programs did an excellent job to stay in touch with our referral sources. So our employment focused services program, Courtney Harper, our probation officer Courtney Harper, who coordinates that program, made sure, so we had to make adjustments like everybody else on how we were going to provide services. And once we had that set, and we had that set within a couple of weeks, we took that back to the probation officers and the supervisors and made it clear we are open for business. Here's what we're doing. Here's how we're providing the services. Let's keep working together to get the referrals in. Angela Batal, our task supervisor on the pretrial release services end, you know, the court slowed down, but arrests slowed down, but people were still getting arrested. They were still being arraigned, although at a slower level. She stayed in tune with those arrest numbers and those arraignment numbers, kept an eye on whether or not referrals were coming in for pretrial release services, and made a point to reach out to the town justices, to the city courts, and to the county courts, and let them know the adjustments we made, that we were still open to provide services, and reminded them of the referral service. Now the courts are coming back online. There was a little disconnect in the referral process. So, you know, she's done a lot of work, again, going back to the courts, reminding them of what the referral process is, making adjustments to it based on what the court's current operating procedures are and that type of stuff. And the same thing with our reentry task force. Eric Bordner, who coordinates that, along with a really excellent team of case managers, you know, made adjustments quickly to respond to COVID-19. I won't get into all those. Everybody's probably kind of made the same type of adjustments, but they made adjustments very quickly, reached out and stayed in contact with the parole officers, and along with, and on my end, I stayed in contact with BC Palm and you know, on an administrative level to make sure we were all kind of going in the right direction. So those are some examples of what we did when services were interrupted and we needed to go back and to that foundation piece and kind of rebuild a little bit, and then start that process over again of continuing contact, continuing searching for referrals, providing feedback and involving the referral source in our outcomes, and on and on and on. So hopefully that made sense to you guys. I appreciate your time, and if you have any questions, I'll try to answer them.
Yes, thank you very much, John. We actually do have a question for you from one of the attendees. Just very quickly, how did you go about being able to obtain the securing order from the court as part of your process to receive program participants?
Okay, so
or was it
at the central arraignment process, with central arraignment process, which takes place in our county jail, in a room within the building. And our task program is located in there too. Our offices are in there. So that was pretty simple. The judges fill the securing order out, and then their clerk just walks it over to our task mailbox within that building and puts it in there, and then our task gets it. They go through several times a day. So if there was cap arraignments in the morning, they'd get it by the afternoon. If there was cap arraignments in the evening, we'll get it the very first thing the following morning. The other process is for the so the court system put together an email. They got a secured email system, so they are able to email that to our task program, who gets those securing orders and then reviews them, and Angela actually gets them, reviews them, and then the cases get assigned out.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. That was just a question from one of the attendees.
Okay.
Yeah, so it sounds like for you, John, you really spoke to the process of receiving participants both from the courts and even from within your own department for all the programs you oversee. So thank you so much for your words and for your feedback regarding collaboration.
You're very welcome.
So as we move on, now is a good opportunity for people to ask any questions they have, or if they have any feedback. So I'll give people a minute or so just to type in any questions or feedback they have regarding collaboration. In the meantime, one of the questions that came up was DCJS being able to provide a list of all the programs that are funded by us. So right now we are currently updating the directory of programs. So in lieu of us providing you perhaps an outdated list of all the programs on our website, we want to make sure that you have the most up-to-date list. So we will eventually inform professionals as to when this directory is updated and be able to communicate that to you.
Hey, Frank. It's Nicole.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. And Michelle texted me on that. Thank you for inquiring about that. As far as we are aware, on the public website, the directory has been updated. If you have specific questions about a county, they can certainly reach out to an ATI representative. But if you go on the DCJS public website under OPCA, the ATI programs have our most up-to-date information as we entered it 2 months ago.
Oh, that's fantastic news. Thank you, Nicole, for doing that. I'd like to put that link in the chat box for everyone. So I'm going to do that now.
Okay.
I can do that for you.
Thanks, Frank.
So there's the link. And it doesn't look like any other questions or feedback is coming through either through the chat box or the Q&A. So Alden, you can certainly take it away to close this Lunch and Learn.
Okay, thanks, Frank. I'll give you a quick second to look the slide over here. With respect to collaboration, although this topic is not necessarily a distance learning module, the principle of collaboration is addressed mainly in the assessment and case planning modules, as it is necessary for community corrections staff to collaborate with outside agencies to effectively address the needs identified when managing community-based services. If a DCJS funded program has staff who need access to the Integrated Justice Portal to view these modules, please reach out to your DCJS representative. And listed here is our contact information. Hopefully folks all have this. If not, a friendly reminder here. And on behalf of Frank, Michelle, and Nicole, and Deputy Commissioner and Director Bob Macaron, we want to thank you for joining us today for our Lunch and Learn webinar series. We hope that you found this information to be valuable and applicable to your everyday work. Please join us for our next Lunch and Learn webinar in this series, scheduled for Wednesday, October 14th at 12 p.m. to discuss virtual meetings. This concludes our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. And the PowerPoint will be made available as well as the recording and posted on the DCJS website in the near future. Thank you all.